Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm Venice Beske. I know all of you that are out there in Campbell County. And we have another person logged in, Nicole. Hello? Okay. And we have some people here sitting at the State Library listening to this presentation and watching it. So welcome. This afternoon, what I'd like to do is talk with you about LexisNexis Congressional. It's a database that the University of Wyoming has purchased for statewide use. What I'd like to cover is an overview of what is in LexisNexis. And then one of the things that is in it is the serial set. And I'd like to talk with you about what the serial set is, and then Wyoming items in the serial set, and leave enough time for questions that you might have. Now, I used UGMA this morning for the first time, and I did okay driving and talking at the same time, but I won't promise anything. I put most of this presentation on a PowerPoint so that we wouldn't have to wait for the pages to load. But I will be switching to LexisNexis to do some live searches as well. So I'll be switching back and forth, hopefully pretty seamlessly. Also, as Jamie mentioned, we'll put this, the presentation itself will be up on the archives, and the PowerPoint presentation will be put up there as well. Okay, to get to LexisNexis Congressional, you can get to it two ways. If you go to Go Wild and you go into Subject Government Documents, you can get to it that way. If you happen to remember that it's LexisNexis Congressional Documents, you can search it by title and get to it that way. This is what the main search screen looks like. And you'll notice there's three possible search choices. There's a basic search, an advanced search, and the search by a number. And in order to do these searches, you really have to kind of know about what's in LexisNexis. So we'll cover that. As I mentioned, the U.S. Congressional serial set is in there from 1789 through 1969. But we'll talk more about the serial set later. CRS reports are in there also from 1916 to 2003. They are reports that the Congressional Research Service does, primarily for use of Congress. And it's actually fairly difficult to get your hands on them. You actually have to go through your congressman to get copies of them. So this is a real resource to have them available. Now you'll notice they're only available in LexisNexis through 2003. If you want to get to more recent ones, you can go to the University of North Texas website that's given here, and they've tried to capture them and preserve the digital formats. Another thing that is in here is committee prints. Like the CRS reports, they're produced by the Congressional Research Service, primarily for use of Congress. They're a little more widely dispersed than the reports. They're often a great source of statistics or the legislative history of something like the Social Security Act. They gather all the previous laws and put them into one bound volume or one volume. Again, they're from 1830 to 2003. If you need more recent ones, you can go to GPO Access and search them there. Now, you might ask, well, why don't I just use GPO Access for everything? GPO Access primarily has items that are that were produced within the last 15 to 20 years. So if you want to get to some of the older exceptional stuff, you have to actually use LexisNexis, and we're pretty lucky to have it. Another thing that's in here are hearings. There's many of those. 1824 to 2003. All of you are familiar probably with hearings because there's a lot of them and they're mostly held in DC. But once in a while, if there's a real hot topic out in the States, they'll actually do local hearings. Those are also in here. I think they had hearings on the wolves. I think they've had hearings in this area on snowmobiles. I'm familiar with a rural health hearing they had. And again, if you want more recent hearings, the hearings between 2003 and now, you need to go to GPO Access. If you want to know or learn more about these kinds of publications, I encourage you to go to the Help Toolbox that's on this main page, search page, and go to About the Legislative Process. It'll bring up a page that looks like this, and in the left-hand column there's titled Types of Publications, which will bring up for you all the types of publications that are in LexisNexis Congressional. If you click on these, you get a more description about the actual type of document. The basic search is something that I would suggest if you have a user come in that's looking for general information and you feel that there's probably some government information on it, I'd use this search. Alternative energy is the debate topic. You probably know this, you people out in Campbell County, for this year. And so I did a search on alternative energy in the basic search, and you come up with 1,773 hits. Now over on the left-hand side there, in the area that's highlighted, it tells you how many of each type of report there are. And so in the CRS reports, there's 78. There's 116 committee prints, and 806 hearings, and that's just a portion of the hearings because you'll notice there's 1,773 hits. The system can only display 1,000 at a time, so if you want to see the rest of them, you actually have to go in and sort by the publication date, and then it lists all of them by date. These are the committee prints and the hearings. One thing you'll notice is that all of these are arranged chronologically with the most recent at the top. The other thing that's kind of helpful is that it gives you the number of pages in the hearing or the report. One thing you'll notice is that there aren't any serial set hits that came up here. And I guess alternative energy was not in the language in 1969. That's the only thing I can think of. Okay, we're going to move on to the serial set itself. The United States Congressional Serial Set. Any of you who have been to the state library may have seen our serial set collection. Actually, it looks very similar to this photograph. It's shelves and shelves of documents. I figure it's about a quarter of our collection. It's close to 15,000 volumes. Just an aside, volume 14,961 was shipped in August of this year. So it's a huge collection. And even though it's available in digital format, it's still a joy to pull out one of those volumes that was printed over 150 years ago and browse through it. Interestingly, the volumes that are pre-Civil War are in better shape. The paper of them is in better shape than those published after the war, and that's because pre-Civil War they were still using a process for paper making that didn't involve acid. Some of the maps and the chromolithographs that are in there are particularly enjoyable to look at. But it's always been a challenge to look and find things in the serial set. I mean, it's just so huge. And there are indexes, but the digital version really is a great resource for finding things. If you really want to learn something more about the history of the serial set, the Library of Congress in their American Memories Project has put up this website, A Century of Lawmaking for a New Nation. It's if you just enjoy history and kind of reading about things, it's a fun site to look at. Got to find where I am here. Okay, what does the serial set cover? The first 38 volumes of the serial set are called the American State Papers, and they cover the time frame from 1789 to 1838. The serial set itself wasn't actually published until 1817, so the American State Papers kind of cover a critical period there in our early American history. What's in the serial set itself are the House and Senate reports, and these are usually from congressional committees, and they deal with proposed legislation. Our legal community uses them a lot because it shows, they use it because the reports show the intent of the law. The House and Senate documents include all the other papers that are ordered to be printed by the House or Senate. And they really include lots of the neat stuff, in my opinion. They include the annual reports of the federal agencies, so you can have the Smithsonian's and the Bureau of Ethnology in there. The annual reports of the territorial governors, like there's the territorial governor of Wyoming, and all of his reports. The economic report of the president, annual reports of non-governmental agencies, kind of interesting, including the Boy Scouts of America and the DAR. And then during the late 19th and early 20th century, key executive branch materials were actually reprinted in the serial set. So, for instance, all the geographical and geological surveys that were done are in the serial set, and there's a lot of Wyoming information in those. Just a reminder that the serial set, LexisNexis Congressional serial set, includes the time frame from 1789 through 1969. So if you want access to the serial set from 69 to the present, you need to go to GPO Access. It's not as pretty, I can guarantee you that, but you can get to the things. If you go to the advanced search, this is where you'll find all the various types of reports that you can select and search. One thing you'll note is that they've separated out the House and Senate documents, the House and Senate reports, and the serial set maps. So you can actually search the serial set maps on their own and come up with maps of Wyoming, actually. The other thing you can do is if you select the serial set only option, you can limit the search to those items with illustrations or with statistical tables. The date, by default in the serial set, if you're just searching the serial set, the default is prior to 1970, and you can also search by Congress. So let's do a search. This is a search I had to do last week because I was looking for something for the place name project. I wanted to find Hayden's 1878 survey of Yellowstone. And so I put Hayden in here. I wanted to search all fields except full text because I'm pretty confident that he's the author. Yellowstone would probably be in the title, so I searched it all fields except full text. I selected the serial set, and I know the report was up in 1878, but I don't actually know when the federal government published it. So to cover that, I said that the date was before December 31st, 1890. And I came up with 7 hits. Number 2 is the Geological and Geographical Survey of the Territories, 1878, Part 2, Yellowstone National Park. And this is what it looks like. This is the screen you get up that describes the publication. And I'm going to switch now to a live screen so I can go through the screen with you. You'll notice that it gives the author here. It gives you a doc number, House Executive Doc number 1. It gives you a serial set volume. So if you happen to be down here at the State Library and wanted to look at this report, you could pull serial set volume 1850 and you would have it. It also gives you a SUDOC. And I think I need to go back here and because I clicked the wrong thing here. There. So actually you would look for serial set volume 2057. Gives you a SUDOC number too. Always helpful for the docs librarians out there. Then you have some choices as to how to download it. You can get the complete document, and then it breaks it out into groups of pages, ranges of pages. And this is particularly helpful if you already know from your source that you want page 148, then you can download that portion. The other thing is that you can go down to the lower part of the description and it'll give you information about the illustrations, maps, and tables that are in this report. So this is an illustration, a chromolithograph of Yellowstone Canyon. It's page 1 in the PDF. So then you could go back up and just select page 1. Many, many illustrations, obviously, in this report. There's maps. There's a sketch map of the geology of Junction Valley on page 112. And there's tables. A recapitulation of springs of Yellowstone River below Grand Canyon, page 216. When you actually pull up the report, this is kind of skewed because I wanted to show the whole page, but you get the report in all its original glory. Yellowstone National Park. And then the neat thing about PDFs is that you can actually search them. And I was looking for a locale called the Pitchtone Plateau and trying to find out why it was named that. And so I did a search on the Pitchtone Plateau, and sure enough, here it is, where Gannett actually gave the name Pitchtone Plateau to this region in Yellowstone. So I felt successful. This is an example of one of the chromolithographs, and it takes a while to load. They're very beautiful, especially if you look at the originals in the paper, of course. And then an example of one of the maps. Okay, let's do another search. This time, say I just wanted to find out what was in here about Douglas, Wyoming. One thing about this search is that if you just put in Douglas, Wyoming, it assumes it's a phrase, and you do not have to put it in quotes. I'm going to have it search all the fields, including the full text, because I want Douglas, Wyoming out of everything that's in here. And I am going to go in here and do this search live. Let's go back up. One thing I've found about this database is there's no real easy way to get back to the original search screen except to edit the search. So I'm going to put Douglas, Wyoming, and I'm going to select all fields including full text. Remove Yellowstone. I'm going to select serial set. In this case, I want to use the default date because I want everything on Douglas, Wyoming. And I'm going to search. And it brings up 206 hits with Douglas, Wyoming. Now you'll notice here number 10 is the 41st annual report of the Boy Scouts of America. Douglas, Wyoming is actually in there because somebody was either a representative from Douglas or there was a camp near Douglas. Pretty cool. I was curious about this American Ethnology Bureau Bulletin, Arapaho Child Life. So if you pull that one up, and I did pull it up and download it, there's Douglas, Wyoming. The other nice feature about LexisNexis is that it will automatically search for WYO if you do a search for Wyoming. They're interchangeable. So what it says here about Douglas is the Arapaho women had tanned many buffalo hides and went to Stingy House to sell them. Stingy House was a trading post near Douglas, and the Arapaho dubbed it Stingy House because the owner refused to give them things for which they asked. I don't know whether to put that one in the place name wiki or not. Okay. You can also search authors. So, for instance, the United States Geological Survey. All of us know that the USGS has published many, many things in which Wyoming appears. So you can do a search. Here's a search that I did, USGS, all fields except full text just because it's an author, serial set, and the dates or anything that's in there. And if you do that search, you come up with 1,199 hits. Now you can go up to the focus search here. Say you really just want to focus on Wyoming. If you type Wyoming in the focus search, then you get 659 hits. If you want to limit it even more and put Laramie in that focus search, then you get 291 hits. Now I have to give you a heads up. One thing that USGS does is they put lists of publications in the back of their publications. And so at the end of this, and you won't see it because I didn't do a screen dump of that, but there's an Ohio report that I'm sure Laramie is not in there, but there is a report cited in the bibliography that includes Laramie. So of course this picks it up. One thing you'll notice is the water supply papers are in here, the professional papers, pretty much into the early 30s. So everything from the beginning of the USGS publications of those series, publication of those series up into the 30s, all those are in here. So another great resource to get to some of those classic Wyoming papers. Here's another one that we've been asked a lot here at the State Library through the years. You can do title searches. And one of the titles that we've been asked about is the Army Register. If you go in, type in Army Register as a title. And I need to go to the live search, so I won't. Going to go in here, type Army Register. I'm going to do a title search. Select serial set, everything, and do a search. It's a little slow this afternoon. It didn't like that search. What you end up with is something like 200 hits on the Army Register. And it includes all the Army registers going back to the one that was published first, and I believe that was in 1813. You can also search Statistical Abstract of the United States, and it's in here all the way from its first publication to the present, because that's actually a title they put in here, even to this day. Okay. Okay. So one of the sources I always used when we had Wyoming researchers come in looking for Wyoming things was this big old green book that had this onion skin paper that was really a treasure. And it was created by a former docs librarian here at the State Library, Marie Irwin. She's actually the author of the Wyoming Historical Blue Book, so she did a lot of work for Wyoming. She went through the serial set and she located all the Wyoming-related items at that time, and the index she did covers the period from 1803 to 1936. And this summer we were lucky enough to have an intern who scanned that particular book, very difficult scanning because it was onion skin, and then OCR'd it. So now, if you go in and do a wild search on Marie Irwin, you come up with all her hits, but one of the things you come up with is the index of the historical material concerning the state of Wyoming as found in the Congressional documents. If you go to the actual record, and I think we need to fix this so it's a little more, it explains a little bit more about what you're getting. But section 1 is the alphabetic index, and that's the thing we want to look at. If you click on that, you get a PDF of the index, 282 pages of an index. And you can search there, and I wanted to search for Evanston. So I did a search and came up with this particular hit. Evanston, Wyoming, public building, 1897. Now, it doesn't say this anywhere in this resource, and we are going to have to put some instructions out there. But this number way over on the far right here is actually the serial set volume number. And then it is Senate Report 102 in serial set 3570. So, if you take that and you go back to LexisNexis, you go to the search by number page, and you'll notice you can search by pub number, bib number, the SUDOC, or serial set volume number, and that's what we want to do. So we want to search 3570. Okay, you come up with 308 hits, because what they do is they bound together as many of the Senate docs in this case, Senate reports in this case, as they can into one volume. And some of these are little one-page things and some are 20-page things, but there's 308 of them in this particular volume. If you want to find the one you're looking for, you put the number of the report you're looking for in the focus search, 102. And hopefully it'll be working, yes. Okay, 102 must appear somewhere in these hits, but right in the middle is the public building at Evanston, Wyoming that we want to look at. And you get, in this case, a very short description because it's a very short report. It's one page. But it was kind of a lucky hit because another thing I wanted to show you is that for significant people, in this case Francis M. Roy Warren, they've actually linked to the biographical directory of the U.S. Congress. And you can go in and get a biography of Warren. So that's another nice feature. If you go in and bring this report up, you'll see that it's just a simple report. It's one of those reports that accompanies a bill to accompany Senate 134. And really what it's asking or saying is that this committee on public buildings and grounds supports building a public building, a federal building in Evanston, because Evanston is a big city, growing city, and it is location of United States Circuit and District Courts. What you learn by going here. And that is what I have for you today.